Shalom Akim, it's your brother Malcolm coming at you with another lesson of truth. All right, and I first and foremost like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, double honors unto the apostles of GMS, the true elders and leaders of Israel that's been set up on earth today. All right, and to the brothers that labor in this truth. All right, in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. All right, on the four corners of the earth, to you brothers, I say shalom. All right, as promised, back into the history thing. One of the brothers in the camp, really good brother, passed his book to me, and there's going to be quite a few sit downs come out of it, both individually, and I also plan to go into this book with my co-captain, the brother Uriah. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave key parts for us to do together, but I'm going to go into this book, and I'm going to do a sit-down out of a couple sit-downs out of each chapter. But there's a lot of meat in this book, a lot of history, and, and before I even get started, and I'm thinking about it, I just watched a video about the decline of the so-called white man, and the curses are falling on the nation of Edom, man. There was a survey done out of New Hampshire University, and 38% of the white population are dying faster than they're being born, man. So I guess that kind of destroys the whole, Darwinism is a lie. All right, it's a total fabricated lie to push forth their agenda. They're actually trying to pay some Edomite women to have babies in different European countries, and see, it's all backfiring on them, man. Everything that they've done is backfiring on them. The curses are starting to fall on them because the tribes are waking up, man. Okay, in the video it talked about the oppression of Edomite women by Edomite men. All right, and how the Edomite women get ostracized when they marry, date, or have children outside their race, but Edomite men don't. And that's actually, that would be correct, because what people have to come to the understanding that an Edomite man can have children with Asian women, black women, Hispanic women, so-called. But the children, it doesn't matter if they come out looking like the women, they're still Edomites. Where when a woman has a child, whether that be an Edomite woman, an Israelite woman, or Ammonite, or whatever the woman is, when you have a child with a man outside your race, it doesn't matter if your child looks like you. The heritage of that child is of that man. That being the difference. All right? But nevertheless, it also said that their suicide is high among them, and drug usage is high among them, which is destroying their youth and destroying them. So the curses are falling upon them, man. And after you hear what they've done to us, going into this book, rightly so, man. But anyway, let's just jump right into it. Let me open the shade up a little bit, get a little more light. Yeah, there we go. But the book is called One Dies, Get Another: Convict Leasing in America, in American South, 1866 to 1928. Okay? So, and then from that point, the Jim Crow laws were set into place. All right? And then all the way up to 1964, then you had the privatizing the prisons was nothing new. It already had been done. But they just redid it again. They in 1964, they implemented laws that kind of mimic these right here. There's nothing new under the sun, man. All right, but let's go to it. I've highlighted some things in the book. This is page 2 in the introduction, and I just highlighted some paragraphs, and I marked off some scriptures to go with it. But this is leasing was a method of criminal punishment that reveals much about economic and political condition of society that spawned in it. And more important, since leasing just more or less happened at the first and nurtured and cultivated it once it had come into being. The proper office of the historian, according to theologian Bernard Lernigan, is to discern, elucidate in any given historical epoch that which is going forward, and the convict lease, the late 19th century South forged an institution that expressed and carried forward some of the deepest impulses of that society. All the major themes, lost my place. All the major themes of the period in Southern history were clustered together within the institution. Fears of labor shortage, racism, the dearth of capital, hair-trigger violence, all right, the courageous effort of humane reformers, and through it all, the struggle to modernize. So, so let's go to the scriptures, man. It said hair-trigger violence, man, and within a hair-trigger, man, violence will be, pushed upon Jake by these Edomites, man. Even worse than when they were in slavery. But this is Isaiah 45, verses 1 through 5. And it reads, "Thus saith Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the loins of kings to open before him, and the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. And I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. And I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give thee treasures of darkness and the hidden riches of the secret places, that thou mayest know that I, Yahweh, which call thee by thy name, am the God, am the power of Israel. For Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have even called thee by thy name, and surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. I am Yahweh, and there is none else, and no power beside me. I girded thee though thou hast not known me." Okay? So there's going to be a recompense. Everything, when you're reading about how they formed this economic system to where they just raped, robbed, and enslaved Jake again under a new system, under a new legal system. All right, and you can go and watch that video about Amendment 13, which pretty much said that slavery was outlawed except someone who has been incarcerated. So they just made up bogus laws and bogus things to make sure that Jake stayed incarcerated. And we're going to read about some of those things. Okay? This is page 3 in the introduction. And this is a third paragraph. "For of course, each has its own laws as well as customary practices, its own prisons or lack of it, its distinctive population size and mix, distinguishing cultural traditions and regional tensions, its singular combination of factor endowments, and its unique experience with the Civil War, Reconstruction, and redemption." See, they wanted redemption because they lost. All right? They felt like they lost their slaves, they lost their power, they lost their wealth. So they wanted payback for people who really had just been their victims, not someone who actually did anything to them. All right? The more deeply specialized a historian of particular state becomes, therefore, the more foreign can the ways of the histories of his neighboring southern states be made to seem, with the notable expectation of Edward L. Ayers' pioneering work in 1984, Vengeance and Justice. All right, and that was a book written in 1984 by this man, Edward L. Ayers, and it was basically Southern payback, a genre of the South, prospincenity, which I didn't have don't have my dictionary. I wanted to look that word up. That's why I underlined it. But basically, that's come from their prosperity. The rich, the South got rich, and the North for that matter, off the backs of the Israelites. Because you have to remember, they murdered and committed the most horrific genocide known to man on the inhabitants of the land, who were also Israelites, the so-called Native and Hispanic population, so-called. All right, and then they forced the Southern Kingdom to work that land for free, and they all benefited from it. And many of your schools, banks, and big corporations that exist today were built from the monies that was made from free slave labor. Okay? That is a fact. Okay. All right. Flipping over to page 1. It says, make sure I didn't have a scripture written down. No, I didn't. Just as today's correction experts try to classify prisons and prisoners by degrees of security risk to minimum, medium, and maximum security levels, so also penitentiary managers early in the 19th century were concerned to distinguish between competing plans for the convicts' moral reformation. This debate, known to history as the famous battle between Auburn and Philadelphia plans. At the Philadelphia Penitentiary, prisoners labored in utter silence and isolation in single cells at such tasks as cobblery, harness making, which could be performed by solitary workers, while Auburn, New York, they worked in communal workshops under strict rules of silence duration of the day, retiring to their single cells at night. Between the earliest and the most recent eras of prison management, there arose a different kind of taxonomy that was expressive of the late 19th century concerns with systematic organized production. Each of these three modes of classification reflects the social order that it produced it, and each one proved in time to obscure more than illuminate it. In the dreary historian American penology, classification reveals more about the preoccupations of the classifiers than about the ostensible object analysts. In order to appreciate late 19th century classifications, it is necessary to become familiar with some recondite terms in use among prison professionals 100 years ago. In 1910, an assiduous warden named Amos W. Butler, the president of the American Prison Association, addressed the association's convention subject of prison labor. All right? So they have a president. What, he's the president of the Prison Labor Association? Like I said, there's nothing new under the sun, man. Let's get Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. And it says, the thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything wherewith it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already old, of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of the things that are to come with those things that shall come after. All right? Because this is nothing new, because you got to remember, John the Revelator was sentenced to the salt mines, all right? On the island of Patmos, all right? You know? And salt was a it was a profitable resource for Rome. Okay, so these men were made to make, it told you, like they were making all these different things, cobblery, harnesses, and different things. You had two different systems. You had one where you worked singularly in your cell, and then you had one where you worked communally, and then you retired to your cell, man. Either way, you were in prison, man, and you were making money, and they made sure, and we're going to read about some of the things that they would do to ensure that you went to jail to serve them. Okay? This is, jumped over to page 14. It says, the early United States Department of Labor had issued a comprehensive study of prison labor, which were categorized the activities of some 86,034 convicts on a daily average in 296 institutions in the United States. The study arranged by the system labor control in effect, all right, in effect in various prisons using a purpose such as categories as contract, piece price, public account, and state use. All right, state account, piece price, state use. What do these arcane terms mean? The expression lease system may at least be said to possess the virtue of clarity. It is my contention that the term like piece price and state account, however, which were intended to classify person systems by distinguishing between types of labor management, served instead to mislead students of the prison labor, since the establishment distinctions and are based upon false, irrelevant criteria, which is just everything that Esau does, man. It's based upon false, irrelevant criteria, man. They even their history and try to justify the fact that they're the people of the Lord. They try to deny that Europe was ruled by dark people before it was taken over by pale people. All right. Trying to hide and disguise the fact that they are the Edomites, trying to lie and say that the Edomites were done away with and that they don't exist anymore and that whole sort of thing. Or how they're turned against each other and the white, so-called white Jewish people are said to be the Edomites by the so-called white Christians, and vice versa. They're pointing fingers at each other. The white Jewish people are saying that the white Christians are the Edomites, and the white Christians are saying that the white Jewish people are Edomites, man. All right? But nevertheless, this is the book of Nahum. Let's go to Nahum. Because you people just have a lot to pay for, man. And there's no getting around. Oh, look how I got it. Went too far. Salakia. Maybe I need to open it up. I closed this light. I mean, it was putting glare on the camera, which is why I closed it. But hold on, Salakia. I hadn't turned the lights on. I hadn't turned the power on. Couldn't see. There we go. This is Nahum 1 and 3. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. And Yahweh hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet, man. All right? Matter of fact, let's get one more. Let me get James 2 and 13. All right? Because you Edomites, man, you're not going to get away with what you've done, man. There is nothing you can do. Even if you turned around and you gave back America, you gave back the land, you gave back the gold, you know, it still would not prevent you from the punishment that's coming to you, man. There is no way out of the situation that you've gotten yourself into, man. No way out. This is James 2 and 13, and it reads, "For he shall have judgment without mercy who showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment," man. All right, so like Nahum 1 and 3 said, that the wicked is not going to be acquitted, man. Let's finish this out. We're almost done. It is John Peter Atgell, Illinois' leading reformer in the 1890s. His courageous governor provides a good illustration in his 1886 book on penal machinery and its victims. See, he's calling them victims, man. All right? He was calling it the machinery and the victims. Well, who? Jake, man. Under the public account system, Atgell explained that the state furnished all the inputs, namely raw materials, tools, and labor in persons of incarcerated felons, and marketed and sold and resulted product of prison labor, man. All right? So let's go to Mark. Book of Mark, 3rd chapter. Let's see what the scriptures have to say about this situation. Because here you have an Edomite that's writing against the system that his brethren have instituted, man. Because these Edomites are a divided people. Hence, another one of the reasons why the curses are falling on them. Because Israel was in power when they were together, man. It wasn't until they were divided. And now it's starting to fall on them. This is Mark 3, the 3rd chapter, the 23rd through the 26th verse. "And he called unto him again and said unto them in parables, How can Satan cast out Satan? All right? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, then the kingdom cannot stand. And a house divided against itself that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against himself and he be divided, he cannot stand. This is also proven. This goes right along with Isaiah, the 14th chapter, when it breaks down to you between the 12th and 16th verse, that Satan is a man. This is talking about a people, a race of people. And that is the so-called white man, the biblical Edomites. All right? They're divided against themselves, man. Even then, you had the north against the south. And right here, you had a man, an Edomite, that wrote a book talking about the penal machinery and its victims, man. He wasn't happy with it. All right? Under contract systems, the labor and its production privatized while monitoring and subsequently remained a governmental function. And there's nothing has changed today, man, because privatization is all wrapped up in the government, man, and that's how they make money. They create bogus laws. They don't enforce laws in the same way I just mentioned in the beginning of the video how Edomites do more drugs, all right, but drug laws aren't enforced in their neighborhoods, man. All right. The contract system brought an abundance of corruption and fraud in its train. In 1883, exceptionally thoughtful warden of New York, Elmira Prison, Zebulon Brockway, came up with a new scheme, which was soon emulated in other northern prisons, called the peace price system. And it means by which the terms of public account plan, which had always been difficult to achieve, could be modified under outside firms providing inputs of capital and raw materials by the state-controlled labor prison. So it's just like now. You have all these outside people, like McDonald's uses products which are made by prisoners, just for an example. That's what it's talking about. How these other corporations get involved and they make money connected to it, man. Because, yeah, you got prison laborers that do things for cheap, real cheap for McDonald's, man. All right, a lot of people don't know that. All right, but you two turds constantly going to McDonald's supporting them. All right, the so-called state system was another kind of compromise, a method of employing prisoners whereby the products of their labor should be withheld from the competitive market and used by the state and political divisions on public works and manufacturers, articles of public institutions. All right, because what's really going on is that these Edomites, these wealthy Edomites have stocks in prisons. That's why they keep them full, and all these laws have been pushed, man, to keep their pockets filled, man. All right. Finally, of course, came the convicts lease system, under which the state, after receiving a fixed sum for the privilege, paid no attention to the prisoners whatsoever, while they leasy-fed, clothed, guarded, and worked them to his own profit. All right. This also helps create quotas for cops. Cops will arrest you based on the quota, man. Good example of that is the movie Hurricane. The boxer Hurricane, the cop arrested him out of convenience to fill a quota. And even though he knew that he was innocent, that man spent so many years in prison. Where you could check out the movie. You know, that was I actually took my mother to see that movie before she went to the spirit world, man. And that movie will make you mad as hell. But with that, let me read one more scripture, and we're going to wrap this one up, part one up. And I'm going to read Sirach 10 and 8, man. This is a fitting scripture after all the things that I just read here. This is Sirach 10 and 8, and it says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, going to jail, being beaten, and all the things that you go through, stripped of your manhood, that's an injury, all right? And riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. But see, through righteousness, also with violence and pain and punishment, would the kingdom be translated back to the Israelites. All right? You can read that in Daniel 7 and 18 and lamb back that with Psalms 2 and 8. So with that, I'm going to say all praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh Bashem Shai and Shalom.